Jarvis is on Wall Street. And Rebecca, the big question, is this enough to protect the broader banking system?
And that is the question this morning. George, good morning to you. There is a sense of caution here on Wall Street after that emergency action taken over the weekend, a frantic one where depositors were scrambling to access their money and another bank failed. And the goal behind this emergency action was to avoid a scenario where customers of small regional banks pulled that money and put it into bigger banks which live by a different, higher standard. George? Okay,
Rebecca, stand by as we also bring in our senior White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. Mary, let me begin with you. The administration briefed lawmakers last night. What more do we know about the White House role? Explain how this doesn't put taxpayers at risk.
Well, the hope had been that a buyer would come in and purchase SVB. That didn't happen here in the United States, but HSBC did purchase for £1 SVB.
Not the taxpayers. Mary, should we expect more regulator action in coming days?
Well, the president says that they will.
Rebecca Jarvis, thanks. Robin?
A lot of anxious moments this weekend.
I want to go back to our chief business correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis on Wall Street. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, George. And regulators taking that emergency action, as you say, to avert a banking crisis as depositors scrambled to access their money over the weekend, and another big bank failed. And the goal behind these moves was to keep depositors from pulling their monies from smaller banks and putting them into larger companies, larger banks. Those larger banks tend to offer fewer incentives. The smaller banks offer more, but they come sometimes with higher risk. George?
Rebecca Jarvis, thanks.
So let's get right to Rebecca Jarvis live on Wall Street tonight. Rebecca, you reported there it's not the taxpayers, but instead the FDIC that'll be covering the costs of these deposits, and that's funded solely by the banks. But two other questions for you tonight. What about these reports that some bank employees got bonuses right before all this happened? Will the government try to recover any of that? And then bigger picture here, a lot of talk about deregulation that happened involving many of these regional banks in recent years.
Well, David, there are certainly calls for clawbacks tonight. Senator Elizabeth Warren and others today saying if we're going to deter this kind of mismanagement in the future, then bank executives need to be held accountable. Meantime, the White House tonight pushing for greater regulations on smaller banks. These are regulations that were rolled back in 2018 by Congress during the Trump administration. David?
Rebecca Jarvis leading us off tonight. Rebecca, still many questions on this. We'll be looking forward to your reporting all week long. Thank you.